Good evening and welcome to the Ombudsman program. My name is Diane Wellborn. I am the Ombudsman and I'm going to be your host for this evening's show. Tonight I'm very excited to have with me representatives of an agency named Rebuilding Together Dayton. It is the season to be doing repairs and getting fixed up as we all clean up from the winter. And so I'm happy to bring you this program and all of the exciting work that they are doing to help homeowners in the Dayton area. So I'd like to begin by introducing my guests. I have with me Don Hayashi, who is a member of the Board of Directors of Rebuilding Together Dayton. And I also have with me Jerod Frenzl, who is the Seasonal Safe at Home Manager, and we will get into questions and find out exactly what Seasonal Safe at Home does a little bit later. I'd like to remind our viewers that this is a call-in show, so if you have a question this evening, feel free to give us a call and we'll do our best to get it answered on the air. So I'd like to begin by asking one of you to give us an overview of what is Rebuilding Together Dayton. What is its vision and mission? Tell us what it is.
Yeah, definitely. So Rebuilding Together Dayton is focused on assisting low-income senior homeowners age in place. So we want to provide a safe and healthy home for those that want to choose to live in their home for as long as they would like. We know people have memories and attachments to their homes, and a lot of times with our homeowners, it was their first home. It was the only home they've bought and they own. So they want to stay there as long as possible, be able to have those memories and continue to stay there.
That's a wonderful, wonderful goal. Thank you. I'd like to also ask about the history of the organization. I understand there is a national organization and this is a regional affiliate, but I'll leave it to you all to fill in the details between one and the other.
Well, Rebuilding Together was begun actually in Midland, Texas. There was a church that went in and helped do home repairs for some of their members. And one of the volunteers said, you know, this is like doing Christmas in April. And so the program initially was called Christmas in April when it was started in 1973. And a few years later, one of the writers for Reader's Digest, Trevor Ambrister, wrote about it and took the idea and met a woman in Washington, D.C. named Patty Johnson. And Patty just really thought this was a wonderful idea, so she started a group in Washington, D.C. doing this. And they renamed themselves Rebuilding Together. And then in 1988, it grew with folks in various communities across the U.S. that it became a national organization. Here in Dayton, in 1996, Rebuilding Together Dayton was started. The previous fall, Amy Radacci, who's now our executive director, was on the Dayton Historic Preservation Board. And she went to a conference in D.C. by the National Trust for Historic Preservation. And at that meeting, she met Patty Johnson, was really taken by the things that she was doing. And Amy said, you know, we need to bring that idea back to Dayton. So Patty came as a speaker at an event in January of 1996. And then 2 months later, they were chartered as a nonprofit organization. The first year they worked on, what was it, Jerod, a dozen homes? Eight projects. Eight projects that first year with about 200 volunteers. And they largely worked in rehabilitating homes in the historic districts. The next year it grew to 12 projects. And then the next year, 17 homes. And, you know, at that point they said, you know, we need more coordination of this. And so they hired Amy Radacci, who is still our executive director of Rebuilding. You know, the Home Builders Association offered office space, offered support for it. And now we're in our 22nd year now.
Yes, definitely. 22
so,
years.
yeah.
Well, congratulations. It sounds like it is grown from a very admirable beginning, and we'll get into a little bit more about who all is involved in your partnerships and the importance of volunteers in your program. How would you describe the national impact of the national organization? And then I'll follow up and ask, how would you describe the local impact?
Yeah, definitely. So there are 150 affiliates across the country, all working towards safe and healthy housing for those in need. All maybe a little bit different depending on their area. You've got affiliates in New Jersey and New Orleans that are recovering from Hurricane Sandy or Hurricane Katrina. So they have a large focus in that. Whereas, you've got some in Oklahoma and Kansas that are working on those that may be affected by a tornado or a natural disaster. But we're all working towards making sure that we're helping those in need have a safe and healthy home to live in and to stay in.
Okay. Has it gone international?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we want to stay close to home and really kind of work with what we have here and really kind of strive and go from there.
Okay. And how do you kind of measure that local impact? You measure it obviously in numbers of homes that you've impacted. Do you talk in terms of, do you do more roofs than you do front porches? Do you do more, are there certain common types of projects?
Well, even though Rebuilding Together Dayton focuses on rehabilitating homes, we realize there's more to that than just homes. So, for example, in this most recent time, we worked at a school and with some parks and open areas in the community. As we do work on homes, if we have volunteers who aren't assigned to a particular address, they might do cleanup along the streets or along alleys, trimming bushes, raking leaves, doing these kinds of things. Because we realize what makes a community whole is when people feel good about their neighborhood, when they feel it's tidy and clean, and where people can live and walk safely to where they need to go.
Very good.
Yeah.
What are some of the most important repairs that you all do? You probably have a top 10 kind of list,
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So with the funding that we get from our different funders, a lot of it is geared towards accessibility modifications. With us, our recipients are usually 6 years older, and so as you age, so does your home. So it may need some critical repair, like a plumbing leak, or if there is a light switch or some electrical issues. So we do some of those, but a big bulk of it is, like I said, accessibility modifications. So last year, we did 100 handrails, almost 100, about 80 grab bars. We do a lot of those to really make sure that people are safe in their home as they're using the restroom or trying to exit or enter their home.
And in addition to that, we want to make sure they're safe. So we want to make sure there's a working smoke detector, carbon monoxide sensor, these kinds of things that make them work on stairs. In some cases, the outside of the house needs to be painted. So weather permitting, we can do, painting on the outside. But, doing things that these folks, for the most part, they've finally been able to buy a home. They may have lived in it 20 years, but it needs some updating. It needs some repair. And so we want to make sure that it's an environment that's safe for them.
Very good. I would imagine that there are a lot more people that are contacting you than your resources will permit you to help. That's unfortunately the way a lot of services in our community are. Rebuilding is not, I'm not saying that's a worse problem for you all than for all the other nonprofits.
It's not a unique issue.
Yes, it's
The need is
definitely
great.
not. Yes, I'm sure it is, because our housing stock is aging,
Yes.
and as our people are aging too, and so I'm sure that there's a great demand. Please walk us through that eligibility process. If there's a person watching tonight who does not know about this program and they're over 60 and they would like to have some repairs made in their home, what would it be like on their end to contact you and go through the eligibility process and get a project approved and get a date set and that kind of thing?
Yeah, definitely. So you can definitely give us a call at 223-4893. That's our office number. Give us a call. We can kind of walk through that process with you there as well. But our big 3 requirements to be eligible for the program is that you have to own the home, you have to be over 60 and then be considered low income. So that's based on, depending on where we're using the funds, it's either 80% of the area median or 200% of the federal poverty level, which is right about, I think it's about 32,000 or 23 for a single person.
Okay. When you say own a home, does
Mm-hmm.
this mean can a person be paying a mortgage?
Yes, they can be paying a mortgage.
All right.
We definitely do put preference on those that have been in their home for a long period of time.
Yes.
We want to make sure that those that are anchors in their neighborhood and that have taken care of their home for many years, but they're now 80 years old. They can't get on the ladder and fix the gutter.
They shouldn't.
They shouldn't.
Yes.
Right. Please don't.
Yeah.
And so we're wanting to focus on that population that has, taken the time to care for their home, but as time has progressed, it's harder for them to do so. Right. So that's a preference that we take, really trying to make sure that we're helping those that have been in their neighborhood for a long time continue to stay there.
Oh, that's great. And then how long does this application process and analysis of the home, I mean, somebody's got to go out and kind of sort of do an inspection, for lack of a better, I don't know.
No, yes.
Okay.
We call it an assessment, but yeah.
Okay.
So once we get that application back in the office, make sure we have all of the documentation we need, proof of income, just to verify those things for our funders. Depending on the time of year, it's usually about 4 to 6 or 6 to 8 weeks before we'll be able to get an assessor to come out. He'll take a look at it. It's our project manager, Scott Bruns. He's been in the industry and construction for many, many years, so he knows what to look for. And so we really try and take a look at the house based on the funding that we have at the time. So really trying to take advantage of what we have when we go into that home. So you may be asking for one thing, but we can't necessarily do that, but we still take that opportunity to go in and be like, well, do you need a handrail or a grab bar? That may not always be something someone thinks of first. They see that they got a citation or they see this thing that they've had for a while. It's like, unfortunately, we can't do that, but here, let's see if we can help you out in another way.
Okay, very good. And are there certain types of repairs that our viewers tonight should know that Rebuilding Together Dayton just does not do?
Right. Unfortunately, roofs are a large expense for any person. Yeah. So unfortunately, those are things that are very hard for us to do. So we're always looking for funding for those. Windows and weatherization are things that we kind of steer clear with, especially with weatherization. Community Action Partnership is an amazing resource for that, and so we don't want to try and do a job that they are already doing amazing at. Mm-hmm. So we're just trying to kind of fill our niche, and accessibility modifications is kind of that niche, and doing things that kind of surround that as well.
And also because of the application process, it would be good to highlight that you're not the emergency repair people. If they've got a crisis with something in a home, or would you suggest that they call you anyway? What would you say to that?
Definitely not the first people to call for an emergency, just because there is that application process and making sure
in 4 to 6
that people qualify.
Right. Yeah.
That's the biggest thing is, we have to make sure that they qualify for that funding that we're going to be using. And we get into tricky situations where that person doesn't qualify. Well, now how do we pay that? So to kind of steer clear of that, we let people know, unfortunately, we're not able to get out to you the next day if you have an issue. Mm-hmm. We try the best and try and triage people as best as possible, but really just trying to give people those things they need.
Right, exactly.
And you'll refer them to another agency that may be better suited to them if rebuilding can.
So we do quite a few referrals to Community Action Partnership, like I mentioned before, County Court, and some different organizations. Just, if they call, they may live in Greene County. Unfortunately, we can't service Greene County, but I know Community Action Partnership has an office there. So there are some different resources. So really try to not just say, sorry, we can't help you, and be done. It's, well, let me see if I can figure out who you should call, and try the best to kind of help that person, even if we can't provide that repair for them.
Right. I think that it's been my experience that most of our caring organizations in our community are like this, that they just don't say no. They always try to link a person with the next resource that can help them.
When we do projects, we have to partner and team up with other groups And so we do depend on each other a great deal.
Right, I think that's a good community type of thing. Tell us about your program, your very title, Seasonal Safe at Home.
Yes.
Okay, we can take some guesses at what that might mean, but I think we want to hear it from you first.
Definitely.
Okay.
So looking at Rebuilding Together Dayton as, a 1,000-foot view, there are two programs basically. We have our Neighbor Care program and our Seasonal Safe at Home. Seasonal Safe at Home is that volunteer side. So I'm working on our big marquee volunteer event, National Rebuilding Day, which was just 2 weekends ago. We did 14 house projects, some community projects as well, with about 600 to 700 volunteers.
This is the Christmas and April past.
Yes.
This
Yes.
is our
This is the remnant
National
of...
Rebuilding Day.
Yes.
It's always on the last Saturday of April.
All right.
And this is where we have a major push. This year we did 14 homes.
It's impressive.
In one day.
That's
for
impressive,
the
yeah.
most part. But there are programs that you have,
Right,
Jerod?
and so in addition to that marquee event, we're doing stuff throughout the summer. We get a lot of church groups, youth groups, schools and stuff that want to do community service. It's definitely the new thing with high schools is we want those kids to be out in the community and serving and giving back. And so we're a resource for those students to kind of maybe have a little fun, do some exterior paint, learn or repair, those kinds of things. So I'm doing that kind of stuff throughout the summer. As well as in the fall, we have our Heat the Town, where we partner with Dayton Area Heating and Air Contractors Association. So they'll go out one day in September and do about 30 to 40 homes and check the furnace. Make sure that it's working properly. They'll change the filter, install smokes and COs if need be, and then from there we can kind of see if one needs replaced, if it needs a repair, and then continue to work with those things. So that's the big picture with Seasonal Save at Home is that we kind of take each season as a different type of the program. So in the spring, it's really focused on safe and healthy homes, really making sure that that home is good for the homeowner. And then during the summer, it's exterior maintenance, making sure that gutters are working, that the landscaping is done, making sure bushes and stuff aren't overgrown. And then the fall is the furnace program. And then in the winter, because it usually is pretty cold, we're going inside and looking at falls prevention and fire safety.
I see. So your work is very much seasonal.
And if there are youth groups and others that want to do things throughout the year, Jerod's brought folks over to Wesley Center when I worked there, and we break yards because fall leaves have to be picked up, and it becomes not just a tidy issue, but a safety issue.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You can slip on leaves and things like that. So there are always projects. So if there are individuals or groups that are interested, Rebuilding can connect you with projects that will be meaningful. They have tools and resources that can help with that. But we really try to bring volunteers together. There are some companies that will want to do a team building project for their employees, and so they may come out on a particular day and want to do a blitz of a neighborhood, and we can help make arrangements for that. And because Rebuilding has good connections with the city and the county and others, we're able to team up to try to get the best of everything so that we can do the most good for our neighborhoods.
Great. And how many projects do you have for the summer lined up?
So far, we've got about 10 to 20.
Okay.
So we're always welcome to invite new groups. So with that program, the Seasonal Save at Home is focused on a specific neighborhood. So right now, we're in the Westwood neighborhood. And so all of our volunteer activities are for that neighborhood, really trying to pinpoint and leverage all of our work with the volunteers. So this year, I believe we've got about 20 in the program, and we did 14 for National Rebuilding Day, so we've got 6 that'll need some more repairs throughout the summer and those kinds of things. So we're very open. We see a lot of success with really offering up, you let us know what time, the schedule, if you need food, how many people and what you'd like to do, and we can put that project for you together.
Okay. That's very good to know. And does this mean then that people who might want to apply for your service need to be living in Westwood right now? Or you're still working countywide?
We are still working countywide.
Okay.
So that the neighbor care program is countywide, and that's where a bulk of the projects and the funding goes towards. And so a lot of it is countywide.
All right. Tell us, how did you all select the Westwood community? Did somebody from Westwood come to you and say, please work with us? Or how did this come to be?
So we saw, as a national organization, seeing the good of an affiliate picking a specific neighborhood and really trying to really attack the issues that those homeowners may need, so that they can kind of leverage on what they're doing at this house over here, as well as what else is going on with the city. And so we tested that in the Twin Towers neighborhood, my first year that I was with the organization, really kind of test the waters as a small neighborhood. So we really got a feel for how awesome it is to have all of that centrally located for our volunteers and those kinds of things. And so as we were looking for that next neighborhood, we knew we needed a good-sized neighborhood that would have multiple homeowners that qualify for our services. And so we were talking with a police officer that knew that the Dayton police was getting a grant to kind of address some of the juvenile offenders and crime issues in the Westwood neighborhood and in that 45417 zip code. Sorry. And so we knew that there was going to be some attention put on that area, and we really wanted to be a part of that. Every time I go out and visit a homeowner in the Westwood neighborhood, I hear the amazing stories of what it was like when they moved in. And unfortunately, things have changed, but we're really there to kind of help change that again and bring it back to that former glory that it had. And so really trying to leverage what everyone else is doing. So on top of that grant that the police department got, the library is putting in a new multi-million-dollar library in the area. You have the VA hospital. The Right Beef Flyer Factory just got certified as a National Heritage Site. So there's a lot of attention around that neighborhood and in that neighborhood. So really trying to be a part of that. We can't do everything, but we want to do our part to kind of bring that community and that neighborhood back.
So how many years, I'm sorry, go ahead.
And consciously, 3 years ago, as we looked past Twin Towers, we wanted to choose another area to work in, and Westwood was chosen. And we said, you know, this can't just be a one-shot deal, because those problems have to be dealt with in a much greater way. And so we made a 3-year commitment that we would stick with Westwood for 3 years. And it has really paid off. You know, there are some years that we have to kind of reach out and beg people to apply, because most people don't know about us. We've gotten to the 3rd year that we're now getting a steady stream of folks. And the day that we were working on National Rebuilding Day, some folks came by and said, where do I get an application? I want my house worked on just like Mrs. Smith down the street, kind of thing. And
that's exactly what you want.
Yes. And that is what we want. And, you know, to go and do neighborhood cleanup, to pick up large bulk waste, to clean up the parks, to these other things, it's beginning to show. And we're getting folks from the neighborhood now wanting to volunteer and be a part of Rebuilding Day. And so it works every way to try to reinforce each other. So we think it's a good way. And we're now looking at what do we do next year. Do we still stay in Westwood? Do we stay in West Dayton? Or are there other neighborhoods that we might make a very substantial commitment to? Right. And that's what we're studying right now.
I bet you are, because what's the future? You want to have your next plan. Then give us some summary about the projects. When you did the 14 for your National Day, were they all in Westwood?
Yes, they were.
Okay,
they
so
were.
There were 14 homes.
For the National
this is the 3rd year, so you've done that many.
Yeah, by the end of the year, through the seasonal stay-at-home program, we'll be reaching about 70 homeowners that we've done something for.
And about how many homeowners are in the neighborhood?
I'd say around 1,000 or so.
It's probably a fair.
I believe Westwood is the largest neighborhood in the city of Dayton. So we were tackling a big beast, but we knew we could do it with all of our partners, and just really trying to leverage what everyone else was doing.
Right, right. Well, then there's some argument for maybe staying around another year,
Sure.
isn't
Well,
there? I'm
well,
sure
yes.
some people are making that argument.
And there are things beyond rebuilding Dayton
Yes.
that really have made a difference. I'm beginning to notice as I go to that West Side community with some frequency that there are folks doing improvements on their own to their properties. There are folks putting up, cleaning up fences, putting on new roofs, doing other things. That's not rebuilding together Dayton, but I think we've begun a movement toward getting folks in touch with that.
Oh, that's
There
good.
are other low-income housing groups that are beginning to look at building on some of the vacant lots in the West Side. We've worked with the city to tear down garages and other things that really are not only eyesores, but hazards to the community. And I think, all working together, we can do so much more than any one individual organization can do.
Right, that's definitely true to mass the talent. Who are your funders? You mentioned that they have, of course, as all funders, have some kind of guidelines. So where does the bulk of the funding come from to support this wonderful program?
Yeah, for the Seasonal Save at Home program, our key sponsors, DPNL.
Okay.
So we've
Foundation.
received, for the past 3 years, a donation through their signature grant. So that's really helped us kind of bolster this program, because it is a new program. When I started on as staff, it was something really trying to develop, going a little bit further than where we were. Initially, it was just, as people come to us with volunteers, we can organize something, but really trying to take that approach of the community aspect and really bolstering our volunteer efforts is where this program came from. And so DPNL has been an amazing resource for that, as well as the Housing Trust Fund through County Corp and different corporations. With National Rebuilding Day, that's a big kind of a fundraiser for us because most projects are receiving funds from a corporation or a nonprofit to kind of cover those costs for that house. So we've got Booz Allen Hamilton, Shiloh Church, First Baptist Church,
Lowe's,
Honda, yeah.
and then there are other groups that provide teams of folks to help work on those homes. Plus, we're very blessed here in Dayton. We have University of Dayton, we have Wright State, we have Central State, and the high schools, Chaminade, Julian, and others have really come and sent scores of volunteers. And so, it's 600-700 folks on that one day. During the summer, there'll be 20 or 30 every Wednesday or whatever. It really makes a difference. And the thing that has really encouraged me serving on the board is on our board of directors and with our volunteers. There are folks who come to us through their faith experience. There are folks that come through their employer. There are folks that, because they have skilled trades, they come and work with us. And it's all these folks working together in teams that really has made the difference. And so, we don't charge homeowners for these repairs.
Right.
It's done without cost. And we're able to do it because we have the funding sponsors, we have skilled trades, we have hundreds of volunteers that are willing to give of their time and effort to really make a difference.
Oh, that's a very wonderful statement for the volunteers. Talk to us a little bit about how you match the volunteers with a particular project. So if my church group wanted to come and do a volunteer work in a day, do you have a list of projects that you've already assessed and you say, okay, you can pick from this block cleanup or pick up this park, or is that how you do it, or tell us how you do it?
So it's a conversation. It really depends on when we're doing it. If it's for National Rebuilding Day, we really try and get you involved in finding out what needs to be done. So if you've got a skilled person in your group, we have them come out, maybe be that team lead, we call them a house captain, and they can really decide, they can get that full view of all of our houses we're looking to do for National Rebuilding Day and kind of pick it which one fits best for them. Because we don't want to push a project on somebody that maybe it needs plumbing, but you don't have a plumber. We don't want to put you in that situation.
That wouldn't be very good for the
right.
homeowner either.
Right. And so we really want to make sure that those that are coming to us have that opportunity to kind of pick what's best for them, what kind of skills they're coming with their volunteers. During the summer, it's a little bit different. I just kind of have that casual conversation. When you come to me saying, I'd love to do a project, what kind of work are you looking for? What ages? Because if I have a bunch of middle schoolers, they're probably going to do landscape or some exterior paint. But if I've got some college kids or some adults, we can try and do some other things with them that maybe kind of teach them a new skill, those kinds of things. So it's really up to that volunteer group on what kind of project they're going to get themselves into.
And the skills that they bring with
Right.
them, exactly. Okay, I see. And then you've mentioned a number of faith communities that are involved. So I would think that you're always open to having more, but I bet you
Yes.
do have a lot of those that are available in the summertime. And then the role of youth is probably covered through the community service
Yes,
work, so they can
definitely.
get together and
Yep.
do that. So do you have a large involvement of youth? Because this would be quite a good education for many of them, not only in kind of community cleanup and organizing, but also in having an experience maybe that's outside of their own neighborhood experience.
And that's definitely something that we really try and to explain to those volunteer groups, and really trying to get new ones, is that you get that new interaction. We get a lot of groups from the suburbs that don't get to spend a lot of time in the city outside of maybe downtown, and so really trying to expose them to someone new. We always encourage the homeowner to kind of be involved and get to meet the volunteer group, so you get to not only be able to help that person, but hear their story, why they moved to Ohio, why they moved to Dayton, what made them choose this neighborhood that they're in. And so really kind of getting to hear that story, that background, and figure out who that person is that you're helping. So youth is the bulk of our summer program, so it's always fun to really kind of get those kids out there and to expose them to something new and really get them to use some of that extra energy that they have and work on some different projects. And especially as if they're older, really trying to show them and point out, like, this is why we're doing this is why we're doing that, because if you don't clean out your gutters, the water will overflow and it has an effect on your foundation. And really trying to educate the volunteers on why we're doing what we're doing, so that not only are they kind of understanding that, oh, I'm just cleaning out a gutter. Well, no, you're doing a lot for that house that gutter is cleaned. But now they can take that skill back and that knowledge back to their own home, or whenever they get a home, to know that, oh, I need to make sure that my gutters are cleaned.
Right. Home maintenance
Yes,
education.
home maintenance. Yes,
That's
yes.
exactly right. That's good. Is there anything else you want to say about the role of the volunteers? I mean, they're vital in what you do.
Yes.
You couldn't do it without them.
Right,
How
absolutely.
many do you have on the books, or how many how many are connected with Rebuilding Together Dayton that you feel like you can call upon?
And so that's, we've got a very large email base,
Yes.
So we can always call on people. But we've got a number of groups throughout the year that partner with us, whether it's a corporation or a youth group. And we're always welcoming more. And so it's just all on kind of getting them scheduled and letting us know what works for them. We don't try and schedule, we're going to do a project every Saturday in June. It's, you let us know what works best for you, and we will find a project that fits your needs and what you're looking for.
Okay. Do you have particular projects on the list now for which you are specifically looking for a group to take on?
I would say so. There's a few houses that on National Rebuilding Day 2 weekends ago, you may remember, it was a pretty rainy day.
Yeah.
So a few of those houses needed painting on the outside. So there's a few of those projects. But like I said previously, we've got 6 homeowners that weren't selected for National Rebuilding Day, but are part of our overall seasonal safe at home program that are looking for maybe needing exterior paint or needing some work on the inside or work with landscape. So we definitely have the projects ready, and just letting us know what day and what you're looking for is the next step.
Okay. And when you take a group like that, is there an ideal number that in the group? Would you say 6, 12? Do you need a certain number for most projects?
I think it just kind of depends on what they're looking for. If it's just a couple of people, like we've got a group with St. Christopher, they come out every Wednesday throughout the summer with about 5 to 6 middle schoolers. So they may be helping with some cleanup in the neighborhood, which is really easy for 5 people to do, or they're 5 extra people on another project. And so we're not necessarily limited to numbers of volunteers. If it's a really large group, trying to figure out if we can split them up and those kinds of things, but I definitely don't say no to someone looking to lend a hand.
Right, whatever their group is coming with, you're going to work with them and tailor it to them. Are there particular skill sets that you all are looking for right now? I mean, in these summer months, are you looking for painters? You've mentioned that there's painting that needs to be done. Are there particular skills that you really want to hear from?
I think in the skilled areas, we always can use plumbers,
okay,
electricians, and folks that can do carpentry. There are always projects that involve carpentry, and someone who really knows what they're doing, working with someone who can learn, we can accomplish it so much faster. In the fall, with the Heat the Town HVAC contractors, heating, air conditioning folks, that's a real need. And then, but we can use folks almost with wherever their skills either are, or even if they don't have skills. We have projects that most people can pick up pretty quickly.
can pick up and do. Well, that's really
And having those skilled folks on a project site is always good to be able to maybe do something we didn't plan on.
Okay.
We notice, we get out there, I've got a bunch of middle schoolers that are ready to paint. We can do that, and one of their leaders says, "Oh, I'm an electrician." It's like, "Oh, well, they need a new."
We got a job for you.
Yeah, they need a new exterior light for safety.
Okay.
So we can try and get them to work on those kinds of things. So.
Good. We're going to come back to that, but I'm being told that we have a caller that has a question for us. So, caller, you're on the air. We'd like to hear your question.
Thank you. Great show. I had a thought about utilizing, I have a couple of youth groups, both through church and the Boy Scouts as well as school, and would like to plug them in to your organization. Is that something that different groups can get involved with, especially the youth? And if so, how would we go about that?
Thank you for your call. We're going to give you your answer off the air, but thank you very much. I think you heard him, but for the viewers that maybe did not, he says that he is actively working with a couple of youth groups through church and I think children's school, and he wants to know, can he contact you and can they get involved, and how do they do that?
Yeah, definitely. So like we've said, we're open to anybody and basically everybody to come out and lend a hand. Doesn't really matter the age. Obviously, a 2-year-old can't really help paint, but we can get some middle schoolers out there. It's definitely great. They've always got a lot of energy. They can always contact us at our office, which is 223-4893, or you can give me an email, which is Jerod, Jerod, at rtdayton.org.
RT, Rebuilding Together,
Yes.
Dayton.org is your website. Okay, good. Well, that's nice. I think you'll have some more volunteers
looking
after
forward
this.
to
Wonderful.
That's just great. That's what you're looking for. Tell me about the 7 principles of healthy housing.
Yes.
I saw this on your website. I'm completely unfamiliar with what this is. So.
Yes. So it's something that our national organization has partnered with the HUD and Safe and Healthy Housing Initiative, and really trying to focus on the 7 principles, and really trying to make sure that every house kind of meets those. So they are dry, and you caught me, I should have written it down. I meant to. No, it's fine. Dry, pest-free, well-ventilated. There's 3. Let's see, what are they? Shoot. Dang it.
Well,
should have
we'll
written
come
it
back.
down.
We'll come.
Yes.
We'll move on, and we'll come back to that. But yes, those are all very important.
Yes.
And do pests enter a lot in
Yep.
what you do? We have, you hear a lot about bugs, So
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
And so we can't always do kind of the pest remediation or any health of those things because they can be kind of expensive, but really trying to deter those things from happening or getting worse. So, people may have a hinge or something with the cabinetry kind of broken, which leaves the cabinet open, which is just a welcome for, oh, look, here's some rice or flour,
Right.
a rice, a mouse can get in.
Uh-huh.
So really trying to make sure that, those cabinets are secure, that there's no holes through the siding or anything like that to allow a pest to come through. And another one is keeping it clean, which is an obvious thing, but, really making sure that, the cabinets are clear, things are clear on the floor so that there's no trip hazards, as well as, keeping those pests away with keeping it clean.
Okay. All right. Very good. Does Rebuilding Together have any special relationship in working with veterans? Is that any part of your
So one of our national partners is Sears, and they have a Heroes at Home program. And so through our national organization, they have pass-through grants that we're able to apply for, as well as we're always looking for those that have served our country, really trying to help them out. Unfortunately, we don't have dedicated funding for those, but we always try and seek out and use them as the VA hospital or the VFW, any of those resources to kind of help find our homeowners, those that qualify for us already, and really trying to make sure that we can help those that have given back to our country.
Okay. And what types of things do you think really distinguish Rebuilding Together Dayton from other types of housing programs? You mentioned that Community Action has the weatherization niche, so you don't go there because that's what they do. Are there other such maybe funding streams so you all stay away from certain projects? You mentioned roofs were just big and expensive and complicated, but are there other things that other agencies have so you don't do it?
Right. So we, like we've kind of gone through with the qualifications. So we're the 60 and older homeowners and low income. So you've got County Corp, which can do some rental properties and is working throughout the county. So we're just trying to fill that niche of really trying to make sure that those that have been anchors in their community, have been in their home for a long time, can continue to stay there. Because with some of our repairs, which you could say is $5,000 to do some repairs, it's going to make that home a lot safer, versus maybe $40,000, which is the average, I believe, yearly price for an assisted living or a nursing home. So we're really trying to kind of help not only that person, but the community as a whole, trying to make sure that person can stay in that home, be an anchor, be a part of their neighborhood.
Okay. And is the neighbor care program, does it have this? It has the same eligibility that
Correct.
you just
Yes.
described. It's all of that. Do you receive any federal or state funding for your programs at Rebuilding Together?
We do receive some federal funds, not directly from the federal government, but it's the Community Development Block Grants.
Yes.
And so we get that both from the city and the county. And so those are great. With the city, it's helping with us cover administrative costs, those overhead things. That way, when someone donates to us, we can really kind of make sure that goes directly to the services. And so those are great resources for us. The Human Services Levy for the frail and elderly is a great resource. That's what really helps us do those accessibility modifications. And it's really kind of helped us focus and hone in on that need for our community.
Okay, very good. And do you ever find projects that there's just too much to be done? I mean, that doing what you can do is not going to let you leave feeling that you've achieved the safety and the healthy home that you want. I'm sure those are sad cases,
yes,
but
yes.
Well, sometimes a homeowner may want work done that may go beyond what our funding or our volunteers can handle.
Yes.
And so we try to be very clear with them up front of what we can do and what we cannot do.
Okay.
And there's some things that they'll need to find another resource, maybe family or relatives might be able to help them with, maybe friends, maybe their church can help them with. But we try to be very clear of what we are able to do and that which they really need to find another resource for.
Okay. Do you encounter many projects where the homeowner might have learned about you, maybe not in Westwood, because you're saying already they're talking about rebuilding together is kind of a buzzword now in Westwood because you've been there doing such good work, but do you have people referred to you from housing inspection agencies because they know that this gutter, not only does it need to be fixed to keep the house dry, but it's a code violation?
Yeah, definitely. So we do have someone from the city on our board to kind of help with that discussion and that connection. So we do a lot of, with Dayton specifically, they have our information, they get our brochure and those kinds of things. So definitely do refer those that would qualify or potentially qualify to us to kind of see if there is something we can do to help them out with those citations.
Right, exactly. And at this point, are you planning, you've just finished the rebuilding together, National Rebuilding Day, and you still have some work that the weather prevented you all from doing that you're going to work on this summer, but are you starting to already gear up for next year's day with your projects? I would think they're always coming to you.
We do have projects going on every day of the year, and that's kind of where neighbor care comes in.
All right.
So seasonal stay at home, like I said, is that volunteer component, and neighbor care is that skilled trades.
Okay.
So that's where a lot of our government funding and some other funding comes in to do those higher skilled, doing the electrical, the plumbing, the handrails, grab bars, those kinds of things. So we use local contractors that are amazing and really work with us really well and kind of go out and do those things every day throughout the year. So we're always doing those kinds of projects, and that's countywide. So that's where a bulk of our work comes from. Last year, we did about 133 homes unduplicated for that year.
It's a lot.
And I would say about 100 of them or more had utilized the neighbor care program as well. So we were at about 30 or so with the seasonal safe at home, but really trying to, it always overlaps, so we may not be able to do something like a handrail or grab bar or a ramp with the volunteers, so we kind of utilize that money through neighbor care to kind of get that done as well.
Okay. And do you have repeat customers? Do you have people that you helped and you finished the project that as you scoped it out or defined it, and then maybe in a year or two they're coming back, and are they eligible?
They are.
Okay.
And that is something that happens just because of the limited funding that we have. We want to try and help as many people as we can. So really trying to, maybe we see that more critical need of a handrail, a grab bar in the bathroom to make sure they're safe there. So we can do that year, but we don't have funding or enough to do maybe the plumbing leak or this other issue at the house. So we're able to try and go back. It's up to them to reapply. We can't, unfortunately, go out and solicit and kind of say, like, oh, we know you needed this, let's do this again. We really kind of, use those funding sources as best as possible.
And then, like, for example, this year, there was a grant that came through the police department, I believe it was, or not police, the fire department, wasn't it? That they offered a grant to install smoke detectors and CO sensors in homes. And so we partnered that with National Rebuilding Day. And so we had young people that were able to go out and help install those because we know that to have a smoke detector can make the difference of life or death for folks. And it's important to have one that is functioning and in good operating order. So we were able to do those things. And in that way, we've tried to partner with others that already may be offering free smoke detectors, but we're able to tie that in with Rebuilding Day. And that goes beyond just the 14 projects in the neighborhood as well.
Oh, that's wonderful when you can coordinate like
That's
that
right.
and magnify the benefit that everyone has. Do you currently have a wish list of either tools or skills?
Well, I think the number one thing is that if we could find some way to gather more funds and more expertise, we'd like to be able to do more roofs.
Okay.
Roofs are expensive, but roofs are also vital to keep a house dry and
safe and livable.
But that's one area that we just haven't quite figured out how best we can do that.
Right.
So if we could find funding, if we could find professionals who are willing to tackle those kind of projects, we would be very interested in being in touch with
Okay.
us.
Yeah.
I
We're
hope the
definitely-
viewers are listening. I hope we have some people that know about roofs that
Yes.
can help you with that.
We're definitely kind of limited to funding.
Yes.
We've got tons of volunteers and we've got amazing contractors that we work with. But it's just finding that funding to be able to pay for the supplies or paying that contractor to do it. So we're always looking for more funding, which I'm sure everybody is.
Yes.
And so really trying to kind of utilize what funding we have the best we can.
Yes.
And so we can usually, through a donation, usually turn that $1 donation or that donation in a quadruplet, so turning that $1 to 4 through the volunteer and donations from local contractors and all of those things to really make sure that we're utilizing donations and funds and maximizing them as best as
Right,
possible.
and make it go as far as it can. Anything else on your wish list in case somebody's listening out there? Do you accept donations of equipment if somebody's no longer using a lawnmower because they don't do their lawn anymore? Do you take
I'm
such?
open to it.
Okay.
I'm open to tools, those
Okay.
kinds of things, because those are always great because a lot of our summer projects and stuff, it's, a paintbrush.
Yeah.
So we don't always need it, but if we have tools available, we can use those, especially for National Rebuilding Day. A lot of times those project coordinators, those house captains are utilizing their own. And being able to have those extra tools on hand that, oh, here's something came up unexpected, we've got that tool for you to kind of fix that. So those are always things we're open to. We can't take housewares or home building supplies. We don't really have the facility
To store
those or the capability of, kind of dispersing that back to somebody.
Right.
But tools are always great. I love tools. Tools are fun. And so we're always
A lot
looking
of
for
people
tools.
love tools.
Yeah.
Do you often ask your volunteers if they have tools? Do they bring them? You ask them to bring them with them?
I think usually that's just a National Rebuilding Day kind of a thing. We kind of get, because there's so many houses
Projects
and projects going
going
on
on.
at one
Same
time,
day.
Yeah.
we can't always have the tools, supplies for those. But when we're doing the stuff over the summer, they definitely don't have to bring their own tools. We've got, the bare essentials. We've got some power tools and hand tools and those kinds of things. But that's just not enough for 14 houses.
Right. And we're getting very close on time here, so we're about to get out of time. And I wanted to give you all a chance to make any comments about things that maybe I didn't ask you about. But before I get to that, I wanted to ask, are you also looking for volunteers as board members? Do you, are you seeking, you have vacancies at this point that you're looking for?
We're always interested in having folks volunteer, and we could use board members as well.
Okay.
And if they're interested in knowing more about our organization, they can get on our website, which is rtdayton.org, and learn more about the organization. You can find all the applications that you might need there. And we never have a shortage of volunteers, but we always can use more.
Right.
Because there's so much work that needs to be done.
Right.
And
right.
we're glad to provide it.
Right, that's wonderful. And you can donate on the website as well.
that is correct.
And just so our viewers all know that it is completely tax deductible
Yes.
to,
We're
to
a
donate.
tax
Yeah.
exempt
Tax exempt,
charitable
so
organization.
they can do that and they can take it off their taxes in the next year. Is there anything else you'd like our viewers to know tonight?
I think one thing to kind of talk about is why we're doing the Westwood and the neighborhood approach. It's community revitalization. We see that we can leverage and we can be a part of a community and make it successful. So that's something that our national organization is really kind of guiding us towards and seeing that we're so much more than just a housing organization, that we can really be a resource for our neighborhood and the community that we're serving, and really getting them to be educated about home repair, as well as what other resources are out there. So we're always trying to connect our homeowners and those that call us to other resources, whether it be the Ombudsman or any other organization that can assist those in need. So really trying to be a resource for that.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, thank you both so much for giving us all this information tonight and for what you spend your time doing. I mean, I'm sure that the people of Westwood are very pleased that they were chosen, and they're not going to want to let you go away, I'm sure. That's the only thing. How do you leave? And
Yes.
it may be a while before your board and your decision-making team can actually get to that and pick another neighborhood. And after this evening's program, you may have some other neighborhoods entirely applying. So,
Yes.
Those neighborhood associations who might be watching tonight can know that they may have a shot too.
Yes.
So,
That's right.
so thank you very much for all of
Thank
your
you.
good work, and give the phone number one more time.
Yes, it is 223-4893.
And you're located right in downtown Dayton.
Yes, we are.
Okay, so people can go down to Main Street and find your offices at, what's the address?
It is 30 South Main Street.
Okay, great, good. Thank you once again.
Thank you.
Thank
you
you,
for
and
having
thanks
us.
to the viewers for watching. Good night.